In this video, we're going to look at different ways to say nice to meet you and different ways to respond to them. We're also going to look at different ways to respond to how are you and those types of questions. This video is suitable for beginners all the way to advanced and beyond, because the answer is not so much about the grammar, it's about the message. If you think you already know the answer to these questions, then think again. You could be surprised. Let's go. Let's start with nice to meet you. When you meet someone for the first time, you can say, nice to meet you, or pleased to meet you, or it's a pleasure to meet you, or delighted to meet you. Remember, whatever you say it as if you mean it. That's much more important than which one of those phrases you choose to use. If you already know the person, but maybe you've spoken to them on the phone or you've heard about them, then you can add at last to your greeting. Bob, it's a pleasure to meet you at last. Jennifer has told me so much about you, I feel like I'm meeting an old friend. Nice to meet you. In these type of questions, you say only once, and that is when you meet someone for the first time. So what is the response? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. Or pleased to meet you too. Or it's a pleasure to meet you too. Or delighted to meet you too. Or you could say, the pleasure is mine. Please sound like you mean it. Pleased to meet you. Pleased to meet you too, and not pleased to meet you too. Yeah. You could also say likewise, although this is a rather bland response, so do say it with enthusiasm. Likewise, and not likewise. Okay. Avoid saying me too. It's just confusing. Nice to meet you. Me too? I know it's nice to meet myself. I don't understand it. You too is also confusing, so avoid that too. Instead of nice to meet you, you could say, how do you do? But, big but, remember this is very old-fashioned. It doesn't mean you shouldn't use it or you mustn't use it. I'm not the conversation police. In fact, somebody said it to me a couple of months ago, and it was actually a surprise because it's so rare that you hear it these days, and it sounded quite charming. So why not? One point to clear up. How do you do does not mean how are you. How do you do is another way of saying pleased to meet you. And like pleased to meet you, you only say it once when you meet the person for the first time. And the response to how do you do is how do you do? How do you do? How do you do? Do not say I'm fine or any other type thing. I'm good. No. Another misconception is that how do you do is a British form. No, it isn't. It's an old-fashioned form, but spoken throughout the English-speaking world. In fact, in the southern states in the US, in places like Texas, they still say how do you do, but it's shortened to howdy. Howdy. I can't do the American accent, so sorry for that. This howdy form is actually very old, and it comes from southern England in the 16th century. We don't say it in England like that anymore, but it lives on in some US states. Sometimes you'll have a conversation with somebody, either in person or on the phone, and this pleased to meet you is put at the end of the conversation. In those cases, just say, it was nice meeting you at the end of the conversation, or it was nice speaking with you at the end of a phone call. So let's move on to how are you? How do you respond? Well, I know it's the textbook answer, but one of the best responses is simply, I'm fine, thank you, and you. I know it's the one you learnt at school, but it's a great response. Why? It's brief, it's positive, and most importantly, you are asking about the other person as well. It's not just about you, it's about him or her too, and that's important. It ticks all the boxes. With many other responses, it's just about you. Of course, it isn't what you say, it's how you say it. If it's said robotically, I'm fine, thanks, and you, then what's the point? But said with belief and conviction, with a smile and good eye contact, I'm fine, thank you, and you? Then it's a perfect answer. It's a classic like the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, so do use it. Approved. You could also adapt it slightly. I'm fine, thanks, and how are you today? I'm fine, thanks. It's good to see you, my friend. So you can always use it as a base and then adapt it to suit your purposes. Let's move on to some other responses to how are you. You could say, pretty good, thanks. You could say, I'm good. Some people don't like this because grammatically it should be I'm fine, but so many people say it. It's a standard response. It's positive. It's nice. So yes, it's okay. Never been better. Just great. But what about if you're not feeling great? Don't say, actually, not good. My back's hurting and Mr. Grimshaw is giving me a hard time at the office and I've got no pineapple in the house at the moment and it's really depressing. No. Don't say that. How are you does not mean tell me your whole goddamn life story. It's just a way to acknowledge the other person. If you're not feeling great, say something like, how are you? Well, a lot better for meeting you. Here the subtext is that you've seen better days, but you're pleased to see them. Let's look at some other responses. How are you? Not bad. Personally, I don't like this one. It sounds so negative. I'm an optimistic person and not bad sounds like the response of a pessimist. How are you means how is your life going at the moment? And if I hear not bad, I want to say your life is not bad. When is it going to be good? It's an answer that saps your energy. Instead, just say I'm fine, thank you, and you. In fact, it's better to say I just cleaned my socks than not bad. What would you prefer to hear? Let me ask you that. What would you prefer to hear? How are you? Not bad. Or how are you? I just cleaned my socks. Answers in the comments. It's not what you say, it's the way that you say it. And there are other standard answers that sound so negative. Could be better. Mustn't grumble. I've seen better days. It's Monday. And what about other greetings that you might hear that are similar to how are you? How do you respond to these? You might, for example, hear, how are you doing? And the answer would be, I'm doing fine. How's it going? It's going fine. They're not asking about you directly, they're asking about it. So it's going fine. How are things? They're fine. They're fine, thanks. The question is in the plural and the third person. So it's not technically about you, it's about your things, whatever that means. How's life? Just fine. It's fine. Again, it's not about you, it's about your life. Of course, all these questions, you could just say, okay, fine, great, that type of thing. Finally, just remember that there are two types of how are you. One you say to someone you haven't seen for a while and it's a real question. They really want to know how you are. And the other how are you is simply another way of saying hello, maybe to someone that you see frequently. So you might not answer it directly at all. So for example, oh, how are you, Bob? Ah, Jennifer, good to see you again. Fancy a coffee? By the way, if you want to know some other ways of saying hello, how are you, check the video up here somewhere. How do you respond to how are you and nice to meet you? Let us know in the comments. Grammarians, it's always a pleasure to see you. Stay tuned for more videos. See you next time. I just cleaned my socks.